Hi, I'm Alex Bean. Welcome to the Factory Podcast. Today we have Josh Litwack with us, a fellow transplant here in Park City, Utah. We're going to cover everything from his faith to his impact to 85 days of skiing to selling his business and what he's doing now. And get ready because there's a lot to cover. We have Josh, and how do you say your last name again?
Litwack.
Josh Litwack. We just actually recently got to know each other, but Josh is going to bring some energy for us today. Lots of stories that even I haven't heard, so super excited to dig into it. But Josh, introduce yourself. I know you're not a Utah native. Where are you from? Why are you here?
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in Toronto, Canada. I went to university in Canada. Out of school, I started in Bloomberg's leadership development program. At the time, data and analytics was like a new thing, and I became kind of an expert in that field. And at the ripe age of 23, I made a big pitch to Bloomberg senior management that they needed to grow in Canada. Who would have thought sending Canadians to Canada was a good idea?
Yeah.
We kind of crushed it. It put me on the map pretty early. And then I got tapped on the shoulder to move to San Francisco to launch the portfolio and risk analytics business.
So you went from Toronto to where? Was Bloomberg in New
Toronto
York?
to New York City for 3 years. Met my wife and, I guess started my professional career in financial services. Moved to San Francisco, lived there for 6 years. I launched the portfolio and risk analytics business for Bloomberg. At the time, portfolio and risk analytics was a piece of the terminal, and they were trying to figure out how to commercialize that outside of the terminal. And I sold the first ever enterprise portfolio and risk analytic product for Bloomberg. I then worked on the acquisition of Braze, which was Barclays portfolio and risk analytics and index business. Did that for a little bit and then moved over to BlackRock, was a director in their financial technology unit at the age of 29. Left that to do a trip around the world with my wife. So we went to 20 countries, 6 continents. Took 11 months off.
So this is what people do when they don't have children. They take like year off and they go around the world.
Yeah, I mean, not to get technical, but I've taken 2 of the last 5 years off of working, and I really attribute a lot of kind of my journey to the processing that I do in those years off.
Okay.
And and in exploring the planet with my wife, we did a lot of research on financial literacy. It's one of my big passions in life is how do people make financial decisions all over the world.
Like the emotions of those decisions, or like how do they actually break down and what numbers they're looking at? Give me more on that.
No, amazing question. So, like anything in life, right? It's never really the top line value. What you really have to understand is the multitude of things that really break down to make that. So there's the emotional side of financial literacy for sure. There's also the data and analytics side of financial literacy, of helping people really understand that information. And I'll give you an example. When I was down in Buenos Aires, Argentina, my wife's college roommate was living down there, a Spanish-Argentinian girl. And she took me to an asado, which is essentially like a barbecue that they do in Argentina. And, one of the things I was asking with all the interviews that I was doing on financial literacy is, what do you think of retirement? When I say retirement, what do you think of? And I'll never forget one of the people at the asado going to me being like, man, you rich man, you don't really understand how we live down here. He's like, I don't get to think about retirement. I have to think about when I transfer my pesos to dollars because of hyperinflation. Like, my financial situation is very different than anything you understand. And, it was really fascinating when you just decompose what he said there. It's the financial planning aspect of it. It's the emotional aspect of it. And it's really a function of your surroundings as well.
Okay, so you traveled the world, came back. So walk me through, finish out, like you went from Bloomberg went to BlackRock, finish out that until, bring us up to your career at this point.
Yeah, I did 10 years in the corporate world, traveled every week for work with Bloomberg and BlackRock. I'm platinum for life with Marriott. What a journey that was. Is it
really platinum for life?
For life, yeah. I'm 36 years old, and I never have to travel another day in my life, and I have platinum for Marriott. Yeah, it's 863 nights in Marriott hotels, but who's counting?
Yeah. Marriott is literally counting.
Yeah, Marriott and myself. I actually got to tell you, I was really proud of hitting that milestone. I'm actually a legacy Starwood guy, but Marriott.
Okay, so keep going.
Yeah, so after 10 years in the corporate world, did the trip around the world and came back and kind of thought to myself, I grew up in a lower middle class family, so entrepreneurship was never really something that I could be afforded. I kind of had to make money to work hard. And when I came back from the trip around the world, I kind of looked at myself and was like, well, why don't I just start a company? And I started this company with 2 engineers that I worked with at BlackRock. Our whole thesis was that we wanted to take data analytics to the only area of financial services that was really lacking, which was compliance. And we ended up being startup to exit in 3 years, which was quite the journey. I'm sure we'll unpack it over the course of today. Yeah. After selling the company, I moved to Park City, Utah. Similar to you, I transitioned out of the business that acquired us. I worked for them for 28 days, but again, who's counting?
Yeah, I lasted 2, so.
Yeah, exactly. So after I transitioned out, I looked at my wife and I was like, what are we doing living on the East Coast? Let's move to the mountains. And we always thought we were going to move to Colorado, to be totally honest with you. I go to Colorado for music and skiing every year, and just kind of fell in love with Utah and moved to Park City. And now I guest lecture at the University of Utah. I'm part of the business faculty there in the MBC program, which is the Masters of Business Creation. I think it's one of the most incredible programs that exists in the planet, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. Just loving being here in Utah.
Well, welcome. As a fellow transplant, welcome. It's fun to watch Utah culture change and grow, and a lot of talent come here and live. So your business, you start it, 3 years, you exit. Like that, I know how fast of a sprint that is and what that looks like. So there's just a ton of emotion there. When you stopped, did you take another trip around the world, or what'd you do when you first, after the 28 days? What did you do?
Yeah, so the first thing we did was I have a very firm belief in life that transitions are opportunities, and what happens is a lot of people get stuck in transition forever. And for me, I just try to act quick. And for me, we knew we wanted to make a change, and so we picked up and moved to Utah. Our goal was we wanted to ski 85 days last year.
Okay.
We did ski all 85 days last year. Funny enough, actually, we came to Utah with the goal of skiing 50 days a year. And my rabbi, funny enough, sitting at his table for Shabbat dinner was like, 50? That goal isn't high enough, man. Come on, you live in Utah now. It's time to do 85. And I'm a huge data geek, so I actually have a spreadsheet of all days that I do. I don't like the metrics that Epic Pass and Icon give me. So I actually have a spreadsheet where I rank every ski day based on 5 different variables that I think define a good day. And so for all 85 days, I have all those metrics.
I know this isn't relevant to everyone. You got to give me the 5 real quick. What are the 5 metrics to a good day?
I think this is very relevant. So number 1 is snow quality. Right, I think that's super important.
So you measure snow quality.
So it's all subjective, right? Okay. And what I've learned in life is that most things are subjective. It's just important to understand the pieces that make it up, and then life's a weighted average of the things that you care about, right?
Okay, so snow quality,
temperature, how crowded it is. So for example, yesterday was a beautiful ski day. Oh man, do I love the weekdays. It's really incredible. So snow quality, temperature, crowdedness, snow quality, crowdedness.
Do you measure vert? Like how?
No. Vert isn't something that I care about. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm forgetting.
Not like if it's snowing.
Oh yeah. So visibility is another one of those things that I care deeply about. My wife would kill me if she knew that I was forgetting this. Now we do this every day.
Yeah, I remember. It's still great. Okay, so this is a great jumping off point. You've already told me that you're like, hey, I set goals on how many ski days I'm going to have. I set goals on how many times I'm going to see my favorite band. I run data analytics on my hobbies. All this stuff it's goal oriented. It's a very type A personality, right?
Oh yeah.
So how have you transitioned? How have you maintained purpose after, right? When you aren't working, bring us to today in terms of what is maintaining that purpose? How have you processed that? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think this is in my opinion, one of the biggest misconceptions in life really is it's only really important to set goals career-wise. I mean, for me personally, I've been setting goals, and writing them down for probably about 20 some odd years at this point now. When I was in school, I was part of something called a co-op program. It's very popular in Canada where you work a semester, go to school, work a semester, go to school. And I actually started my career at KPMG, and they got the youngest guy to ever make partner. To come, make a speech for us. And, he made this speech and he was like, okay, so, who has goals, right? And everybody obviously had goals. And what we really realized through the exercise is that a lot of people have goals. They just don't write them down. And how do you write it down if you're not manifesting? How do you manifest
how do you
something if you're
manifest
not writing it down?
And so then you're just being reactive to life.
Precisely, yeah. So what I did was I actually built myself a goal-setting exercise that I do every year at the end of the year, and I'm actually starting to do it now for 2024. And essentially what it is I set 1 month, 3 months, 6 month, 9 month, 12 month. So 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 and 30 year goals. I write them down and I say, how old am I going to be at the time? What is the date going to be at that time? And then what do I really want to do at that time? And so what I've done over the years is it's fun to look back and see how wrong I was with some of the things that I thought I wanted when I was younger. And what it really teaches you is that life continues to change and you really got to call the shots if you want to be successful. And so for me now, I've even gotten more granular with it. So a few things that I've done that have really helped me with my purpose. So number one is I do my goal setting with my wife every year. So we used to have separate goals that we would set separately and then come together. I don't even have separate goals to my wife anymore. We just have couple goals. What are we trying to do
together? What if
together?
she doesn't like Fish, your favorite band?
Well, it's a good thing. I've been to 94 shows. She's been to 65.
Okay, so, if she does, you're like, this is now your goal. You're going to come see Fish.
I'm very fortunate that my wife and I are aligned on a really, really deep, both spiritual and emotional level. And so there really isn't conflict like that.
So are you working full-time right now?
I am, yes.
Okay. And are you starting another company?
Yes, I am. We're in stealth.
Okay. So when did you sell the company to today, till you started what you're doing right now?
Sold the company in May of 2023. Went on Fish and Goose tour for the summer.
Yeah.
Those are my two favorite bands. And then moved to Park City in August. Yeah.
And then when did you start the stealth?
Yeah. So I think the big thing after I sold my last company was I was thinking to myself, like, I want to wake up every morning and be excited about the problem that I'm solving.
Okay.
And to be completely upfront with you, selling compliance technology to financial services firms
I get it.
Didn't do it.
Yeah.
I know that might be really surprising, but so I really thought to myself, like, what do I want to be doing with my time?
Can I ask you?
Yeah, of course.
No numbers, but like, do you need to work? I don't know.
I don't think I necessarily need to work. I think for me, it's more a function of like, I want to work. Like, I like taking time off. Again, I've taken 2 of the last 5 years off. I'm a really fortunate guy. For me, I don't really ever want to retire. For me, I want to build great teams. I want to solve big problems. My last exit was, a decent, I'd say I hit a single and, most people would say, okay, that's like an amazing, thing. But for me, I'm just getting started, man.
Well, two things that stick out there. One is, I've actually heard this, like we talk about the concept of retirement. Like when you were in Argentina and you talk to this person about retirement, he's kind of like, what are you talking about? I grew up, and I think a lot of people grew up thinking you work your whole life, obviously, if you work your whole life, and then one day you get to retire. It's kind of like all in, and then you're all out. And I've heard from a lot of different people, and I think it's interesting, and this is kind of the way you're living your life, which is you're working really hard on something, and then when you transition, you do take time to go on tour with your favorite bands. It's kind of these mini retirements across your career.
That's exactly how I talk about it.
And it's not this mindset of like, no, I'm retired forever. Because I interview and talk to a lot of successful business owners.
Yeah, but you get bored, man.
That don't have to work. And it's like you see some of them go through these phases of, no, I'm going to enjoy relaxing and detoxing, but I'm gearing up for something else I'm going to do because of what you said. They want to, I think the word you used was, you want to love the problem that you're solving. And you want to have passion about something, and that passion gives you purpose. And it's not about the work; it's about the problem solving. It's about the passion. I don't want to dive into what the actual thing is, but walk me through kind of how you relate passion and the problem solving. What does that give you emotionally that you think is so valuable?
Great question. So I would say a few things to that. So one is that after we sold the company, my first real reaction was I want to double down on my impact work, right? And for me, when you're working full time and you're building a business, it's sometimes it's hard to do the things that you want to do in the communities that you care about. And so for me, in every place I've ever lived, I'm kind of part of 3 different communities. So one of those is the Jewish community, which is extremely important to me, being a leader in the Jewish communities I'm a part of, and I'm fortunate to have been a part of that. 2 is the entrepreneur community. I care deeply about that. And 3 is the music community. I care real deeply about the music and the people that I have here. And so I think the biggest thing that I thought of after I sold my company is, great, so sold the company, now let's double down on, the Jewish community, and let's double down on the music community.
Yeah.
Right? And so that was really kind of how I evaluated it. We did some incredible work in our year off, focused on fighting anti-Semitism. As I'm sure you see on the news every day, it's very difficult to be Jewish in today's day and age. And, I really try to raise awareness for people, about what it really feels like for people to doubt that you deserve the right to exist. It's a really challenging topic to process mentally. And especially as I think about my success and I talk to other, Jewish people in similar situations, I think one of the things that, we think about is kind of just trying to leave the world in a better place now than it was when we got there. And so I would say that the biggest thing for me in terms of, purpose and thinking about this is, how do I make impact into people's lives that I care about? And one of the things I've learned is that, unfortunately, when you achieve success, not everybody in your life has the ability to understand and be happy for you, right? I think that's one of the things that was really a little challenging for me personally, is that there are some people that are part of the journey early on that you look back and you're like, okay, they played a great, important role. But as you reinvent yourself and as you do new things, as you climb the next mountain, they might not be there to help you or support you or encourage you. And that's just part of the journey.
How did you see that? Right? Like, when did you first realize that? And again, don't name names, obviously, but like, what did that look like when you first started to realize, oh, wait a minute, these were people that we were close or we were connected with, and then it's changed. And I'd love to kind of understand what that looked and felt like.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, well, first off, when you live in New York, California, and New Jersey for, most of your professional career, and you tell your friends and family that you're moving to Utah, let's just say they're not, super huge fans of it. And I'll refrain from sharing the things that people shared with me because it shows their ignorance. But it made me really think. I'm like, whoa, like, I'm doing something that's good for me, and this is somehow not good for you. You have a vacation home in Park City to come visit at any time you want. I just thought everybody would love it. But instead, there were people that understood it and the people that didn't. The other thing I'll say is that, I grew up in a lower middle class family, and I think one of the things I realized is people get really weird around money. And I think, I spent so much of my life studying financial literacy, how people make financial decisions. What I didn't realize was the emotional side of financial literacy that you called out so clearly. And I think that, like, there's this view among some people where they look like, is he rich now? Like, is he different? Like, what's he doing? And it's like, I'm the same guy. In fact,
did they ask that, or do you think you kind of felt that, or did you hear it from other people? Like, again, how did you feel that?
It's a great question. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I felt was distance among the people that I thought cared about me. And I really learned who did care about me, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned, and I have a thesis, life's a journey, right? And I used to try to achieve my 30-year goal as fast as I could. And then what I realized, like, along the way was what I want at 60 and what I want at 36 are very different things. And I think it's really important to embrace the journey and enjoy it along the way. And one of the things I learned is there's people that'll be there at different parts of the journey, right? And that's the thing about being so involved in so many different communities, is you kind of get the opportunity to pick and choose where you want to be involved and what you want to do. And I think, like, for me, when I start to feel the distance with people that care about me, I start to realize that maybe I'm evolving at a different pace. And there are some people that are happy for you and love that. And there's some people that find it really challenging. And, I think that's just part of growth, right? Like, I was thinking about something on the way down here was there's this view among people of, like, oh, growing up, right? Growing up. Anytime someone says, oh, it's time to grow up and do this, probably isn't time to do that. Like, I'm not a fan of this whole growing up thing. You know what I mean?
I think it's also a very, like, old school view
Yeah, conventional wisdom.
Conventional wisdom was
I'm not
like,
a fan
well,
of
you go
conventional
from
wisdom.
like young to grow up, and obviously we should mature and we should grow. And I think that is different. Growing
course.
up is different than growing. And
No,
I
growing
think,
up is an idealism.
Yeah, okay.
Let's separate these topics because this is really, really important, right? You got to separate idealism from practicality. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned after my exit is I was like, oh, what's exit life going to be like? What am I going to do? I'm going to ski 85 days. And, I moved to Utah thinking that the mountains are going to be my favorite thing. And you know what my favorite thing was? The people I met along the way. I went from being a guy that would beg my friends to go on ski trips and then want to wake up at, 6 a.m. to be on the mountain first chair and the intense guy and everything. And all my friends were, dude, why are you so intense? Like, why are we doing this? And I moved to Utah and every single one of my friends is more intense than I am. I skied 85 days. One of my best boys skied 120 days and he's a neurologist.
Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah. It's amazing. And so I don't like saying reinvent myself because it sounds the wrong way. I need to find a better word choice. But in reinventing myself here in Utah, I've really become the person that, I've really always aspired to be. I just didn't know what it looked like.
What's funny about what you said? So I've lived in less places than you. I'm from Seattle and lived in Utah, and those are primarily where I've been. But by going from Toronto to San Francisco to New York to Utah, you are quite literally learning from the environment around you and the people around you because they are very different in many respects.
Yeah, also don't forget that I'm an immigrant, right? Like, I think that's something that a lot of people forget, right? I see a lot of idealists talk about immigration and what they think, and it's like, no, I'm a Canadian boy that immigrated to the U.S., and you know what it's like going from living in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada for school to living in New York City?
Very, very, very different.
Like, let's talk about the emotions of, what that feels like, right? Going to one of the top schools in Canada where everybody knows it, to going to New York where you're competing against Harvard, Yale, those people, and people are like, Laurier, what's that? And I did my CFA literally just to stop having people ask me what school I went to because I was just different. And I think one of the things you learn is that, like, you should embrace being different, right? Like, this is where the conventional wisdom really breaks down is anytime you're trying to follow someone else's journey, first of all, in 2024, and I guess when this comes out in 2025, I'm assuming the future is going to look a little different than the past. But the reality is that, the only thing that's going to be certain is change, right? And the conventional wisdom breaks down when you're just expecting everything to stay the same. And so for me, I just learned at a really young age to embrace the change, embrace being a little bit weird,
Do you think it feels to me like that is very much a Jewish teaching or kind of a cultural, like to be proud of who you are and it's okay to be a little different seems to be like coming out of you. Would you attribute that to like books you've read or personality or would you point towards?
Yeah, so I would actually say, I love that you're calling out the Jewish aspect of it. It unquestionably, so I mean, so my grandmother, may she rest in peace, had a line that I really live my life by every day, and she said, the most important thing in the world is to be a mensch, which is to be a good person. And, I think that there were like two main things, that my family really instilled in me at a young age from Judaism, which is v'hafta l'reacha kamocha, which is treat others the way you want to be treated. And number two is question everything. And I think that, for me, this question everything really turned into why I love data and analytics so much is, we had this line at Bloomberg, which is like, great story, show me the data, right? And so I just kind of became a guy of like, show me the data, right? Like, let me make my own opinion. But at the same time, treating others the way that I want to be treated, and I think that if you're a mensch, if you question everything, what ends up happening is you kind of are able to think critically. And I think one of the biggest things that we have as a society, and I see this in the younger generation, I see this just among my peers and whatnot, is that it's really difficult for people to think critically. You have to be able to go against the grain. But that's really, really hard for people in today's day and age. And I really do attribute my Jewish identity to a big part of why I question everything. And frankly, I've really made it my mission to sit down with my fellow Jews and really help them unpack this, because you have to understand, after October 7th, a lot of Jews went into hiding about their Jewish identity. It's very difficult for them to come out. People are saying some awful stuff on a day-to-day basis. And, for me, I doubled down. What I did was, I was very fortunate, sold my business before October 7th and, partnered with an absolutely incredible human being named Eden Cohen. We started a nonprofit focused on fighting anti-Semitism. That nonprofit has since been acquired by a large Jewish org, and we combined forces with them. And we have this thesis called the surround sound narrative of education. And really what that is you need formal in-class education to understand the particularization of anything. And this is a big topic that I think about in my impact and in my professional world, right? Because in a world of AI, right, there's a lot of general knowledge, right? But very few people have particularized knowledge, right? That's your data helping you make better conclusions. And it's the exact same thing in the Jewish world, right? It's very easy to be able to say, oh, I believe in this, I believe in that. But when someone asks you a question about the detail, how do you actually answer that, right? And there's a piece of that that's knowledge. And then there's also a piece of that is emotion. And so I strongly believe, and frankly, it's one of the reasons I came on your podcast today, is that I really think that when you hear on a podcast information, when you see it on social media, what it does is it helps you reinforce the things that you believe. And I've really made it my mission to really focus on what are the things I really care about and how can I make an impact in as many lives as possible, while I'm on this planet.
So I actually, you talked about impact, and I think you said impact and professional. You clearly separate your life into, and I would add personal, right? You add the fun things you want to have, the impact you want to have, and the professional career you want to have. I have found through a lot of these discussions that when people find a level of success, a lot of them kind of don't sit there and take their intensity and their type A personalities to proactively figure out what their impact's going to be. How have you gone through that process to say, okay, no, hold on. You set my goals for how many days I'm going to ski. I'm setting my, goals for work and, ultimately what I want to achieve. How do you do that on impact?
You really pegged me already, man. I love it. This is great.
You're giving me a lot.
I'm really enjoying this. This is great. So I think my impact journey is a little bit different, frankly, based on necessity, right? A lot of people, and, we've seen it in the Post-Exit Founder Network, which, by the way, it's such a pleasure to be able to be part of that network with you. And, I'm really proud of what we're building here in Utah together. But one of the things that I realize is a lot of people sell their company and then think, now what?
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't like that in any way, shape, or form. I had dreams of all of these different things that I want to do. And a lot of the times it's like, I just don't have the time to do all the things that I want to do. And that's why the goal setting exercise is really important. So in terms of like impact work, the way that I did it is I kind of break my impact work down into 3 buckets. So one is Israel advocacy and Jewish identity, which is something super important to me. Number 2 is financial literacy. And number 3 is environmental conservation. And I care deeply about this planet.
And how did you come to those 3? Were you like, okay, I can only pick 3, or is the list 20 and you really narrowed it down? Like, how did you get to those 3?
Yeah, so great question. So I think the thing is I don't really love going to crowded spaces, right? Like, I think that a lot of people go to the crowded space, and it's frankly one of the issues I have with environmental conservation is there's so many people that think that they're doing things for environmental conservation, and in my opinion, they're not having the impact that they think they are. And so that was really challenging. I think when it comes to, prioritization, which is, I think, what you're asking about, after October 7th, we really transitioned almost all of our efforts to that.
Makes a ton of sense.
That was really a big focus of ours.
What I'm trying to get at for other people, because you clearly have a plan and you're going at it. Again, whatever part of your life,
I'm just getting
plan.
started, bro.
Yeah.
We're talking about the past as if it's not, dude. I'm just getting started.
But a lot of people are so focused on their career and they build this great business or whatever they do to gain success, and they get to that now what phase, and they don't attack impact with the same level of like clarity of, okay, here are the 3 things, here's what I'm gonna do. It kind of becomes like reactive and just, oh yeah, like I'll help out that. And like it kind of comes across their desk and they might do it or help it as they see it. But one thing with the factory concept, the analogy is, hey, instead of your factory producing money, you have to create a factory that produces good. What are those values? What is that good? What does that look like? It takes time, energy, and focus to figure out what you want your good to be if you really want to produce it. Otherwise, you're just kind of like, laissez-fairing it. So that's why I'm asking, like, how you got to those three. And I think
100%. So it all comes down to identity, right? Like, and I think that's a really important thing is like, who are you as a human being, right? And I mean, if you're waking up to work every day with that goal, then like, good for you, right? That's fine.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I really try to do is lead my life with purpose every day. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about, what's my identity? What are the things I care about? If I had more time, what would I be doing with that time? And everything really stems from that. Like, even as I build new relationships, I just in terms of like your book, and the exercise that we did together, I think one of the things, I've taken a lot, from you, to be completely upfront, man.
Hey, thank you.
There's a lot of things that I think about that I hadn't really seen talked about, publicly. And you really represent that. So I just want to give you the respect on kind of like really being, I don't want to say a founder, but like you've been, someone that like has really like inspired me to kind of go down this path. What I'll say though, in general is you had something in one of the exercises where think about the things that you love doing and think about what makes them better. Right. And we did this kind of exercise of setting that up. And one of the things that was really interesting to me is when I wrote, do this with my wife, right, it went up in terms of how much I valued it. And what I learned was, and it's something that you called out, which is that life is a function of the people you surround yourself with, right? And so there's different styles and qualities of relationships among people. Obviously, your spouse is your closest relationship, and in my opinion, the biggest financial decision you make. That's something that I talk to a lot of people about, unpopular truth, but I will say it here again. Your spouse is the single biggest financial decision you make in your life. But your spouse is also the person that you make a lot of emotional decisions with. And one of the things that I've learned is, I met my wife when I was in Bloomberg analytics training. Okay. I was a Canadian boy, 22 years old, and, kind of just figuring things out. And we've gone through this whole journey together. And what I've learned is that life is more enjoyable the more time that we can spend together. And I've learned that other relationships are very similar to that as well, right? But what I've learned is, not everybody loves all of the things that you do. So one of the things I've learned is I'm a very, what I call multi-dimensional person. And I put a lot of weight in terms of the multi-dimensionality of people. If you're great at one thing, great. We're probably not going to be friends. It's just not my thing. For me, my friends joke, and it's probably one of the reasons why I'm friends with more people over the age of 60 than under the age of 60, is that, for me, what it's really all about is really thinking about what are the different things in life that truly make you happy, right? What are the things that really give you long-term success and happiness? And for me, it's spending the time with the people that I love, And so, for example, like when I like to go skiing, I love skiing with my friends that are really, really good skiers. When I love going to see fish, I go see, yes, I've been to 94 shows. Most of my friends in my group have been to 200 plus shows, right? I always aspire to be with people that are better than me in every single thing that I do and push me to be better in each of those different areas. And in the entrepreneurship realm, the reality is there's so many different types of entrepreneurs out there. And if you look up to like one person as the epitome of success, you're going to really just set yourself up for failure. And I think that's something that I kind of learned the hard way is, and this is frankly one of the reasons I left the corporate world is, there came a point where I looked at, my superiors and I was like, I don't want to do what you do, right? And so if you realize that, you have to think to yourself like, well, what are the things that are ultimately going to drive my day-to-day happiness? And it was funny when we were on the trip around the world. I had a friend that texted me. He's like, "Bro, do you realize that every single day you're doing something that is a ultimate life experience that you get to think about for the rest of your life?" And I was like, no, I didn't think about that. I'm just, busy executing. I want to, see the planet. I want to do these things. And what I've learned at this stage of my life is, although I'm a relatively young guy, I've got a lot of life experience and I really love sharing that life experience, but only with people that really want to unpack it. And I think that, there are some people that really want to have surface level conversation. I talk to most people my age, they have the same conversation with every person at every dinner party they go to, and it just gets so boring for me. I just can't do it. For me, I go 30,000 feet in the detail or I won't be there.
Okay, so what would you say to founders that are, currently building and they want to get to where you're at right now, right? It's just a world where you can choose what you want to do. They've exited once, et cetera. What advice would you give to them? Not the surface level. What would you be like? Hey, here's how to navigate the emotions, or here's the game plan that they should have after the exit. When they get to that, now what would you say to them?
So the first thing I'll say is exits are messy. Anytime someone thinks that exiting a company is simple, what you learn is there's a lot of complexity. When at least for me as a first-time entrepreneur, I thought it was all about building a great company. It's not. It really isn't. It's really about understanding deal terms. It's about understanding the things that are ultimately going to drive, the things that really matter, in the business. So the first thing I would say is pay attention, right? Like I'm kind of blown away at how many friends of mine, during their exit process, like we're just like, oh yeah, I'll let the banker deal with it. I'll let the lawyer deal with it. Like I was the guy staying up in the middle of the night, being like trying to read every single one of these clauses. And what I've learned is, although that was like real painful, I learned a lot about the way that the world actually works. I think as a founder, there's a sense of idealism that you have when you're starting a company of like, oh, it's going to be this way. And you should have that. Please don't take what I'm saying and say that you shouldn't have that idealism. The world is going to be a different place. Technology enables us to do that, and I feel so strongly about that. But get the big things right and focus on what the big things are. And I think for me, understanding those deal terms and understanding kind of just the different structure of how things break down was a really important thing. And then after exit, the biggest piece of advice I would have is whatever you're thinking, just do it. Like, don't sit there and ponder for a year and waste time. I think for me, I heard someone say it the other day. It's like good founders make 3 mistakes in the time it takes a bad founder to make 1. That's definitely my style. Is like, when I was younger, I was so focused on being the smartest guy in the room. I always wanted to be the smartest guy in the room. And then what I realized is that doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
Who cares how smart you are?
Or help you. Because that means you're the smartest guy in the room and you're capping your ceiling.
You get to a certain point, and I was just like, you know what? Like, I just want to be around other really smart people. I mean, I'm friends with a guy that's close friends with Myron Scholes, guy that invented the Black Scholes model. And he told me, he's like, for one of his birthdays, his wife went to him and said, like, what do you want for your birthday? You got all the money in the world. What do you want to do? And he's like, I want you to get the 20 smartest people in the world that I define into a room with no agenda, and I just want to talk with nobody else there. And I thought about that so deeply of like, that's what fulfillment is. Fulfillment is being able to pick the 20 people in the world that you define as intelligent and being able to collaborate with them. And what I've learned, though, is that for me, unfortunately, I can't pick 20 people that are going to be able to go in all the different ways that I want to go, right? For me, it's subgroups in different areas that I really value. And so my advice to founders, after they exit is think about the things that really make you happy and just do them. So for me, it was like, okay, I want to move to Utah. I had like no plan, like zero. I literally just started like looking for places and did a trip out here, and I went.
Yeah.
And then what I did was, after you like commit, you're like, okay, I got a place. Then you're like, okay, I got to get part of this community. And so like, what did I do? I went to my rabbi. I was like, dude, there's got to be some Jews in Utah. Can you like connect me to like anyone that might be the slightest resemblance of like a friend? And it was actually really funny because we got connected with the rabbi in Salt Lake, and it was really fascinating because he does Jewish Heritage Night at the Utah Jazz. I'm a big Toronto Raptors fan and absolutely love basketball, and so he was like, oh, you guys will get along. You guys both love basketball. And so it just turns out that in having that conversation with him when that connection was made, it turned out that they were hosting a group trip of their community going out to Bear Lake the weekend after we were planning on moving. And so he goes to me, he's like, dude, if you want to ship your car instead of driving across the country, because we at some point wanted to drive across the country, which was a terrible idea. I'm really glad we didn't do it. I'm not a big fan of driving in general. But we shipped our car and we went on this group trip, and it ended up turning out to be one of the most meaningful experiences of our Utah moving here, because we got plugged into the Park City Jewish community. And it was crazy because we moved in August, and Rosh Hashanah, which is like the Jewish New Year, was a month later. And I was so deeply ingrained in the Jewish community in Park City that I actually spoke at synagogue 1 month into moving here, on Rosh Hashanah, which is such a great honor. And I think that, like, all this is to say that, when there's change in life, take the opportunity to make change. Don't think too much about it. Go just do it. And for me, I think moving to Utah was the single greatest decision I think I've ever made in my lifetime, outside of, choosing to marry my wife. That was a pretty good call too. But again, I wouldn't have moved to Utah had I not met her. So who knows, right? But, I really just think that, like, I used to be so focused on not making mistakes. And what I've learned is that's a poor man's mentality. Because I grew up in a lower middle class family, I couldn't make mistakes. I had to outgrind everyone. But at this stage of life, similar to, I think you told us to read the Strength to Strength book, and just kind of this idea of, like, really kind of thinking about your life in that way. Just something I really think about on a day-to-day basis.
Well, love it. Josh, we've covered a lot today. Love it. We'll have to do it again. But thanks for coming on the factory and having these discussions. It's not always a conversation we can have publicly, and so I appreciate you coming on and sharing everything you did.
My pleasure. Thanks for doing this, man, and thanks for everything you do for our community.